Okay, Li Jun, regarding Xu Jiayin's trial, are there any details or news revealed about the case?
The verdict here is pretty simple, wouldn't you say? Xu Jiayin cooperated fully, demonstrating a model attitude of remorse. He confessed to all 8 accusations from the prosecution, including illegal deposit taking, fundraising fraud, embezzlement, corporate bribery, fraudulent issuance of securities, illegally disclosing information, and making illegal loans, illegal use of funds, etc. Was also involved in about 6 other major charges, investigation all done in court. Regarding the scheduled verdict, as you just mentioned, the general public's expectation now is it will be a severe sentence, life imprisonment. There were also lawsuits filed against 42 executives of Evergrande. Therefore, its entire team was eradicated, primarily due to alleged involvement in financial fraud. So, it can be said that Xu Jiayin is finished, Evergrande is also finished. It's the end of an era. The curtain fell. What about Evergrande? Its overall debt, as everyone knows, 2.4 trillion, is beyond repair. Let's talk about the abroad first, rather than domestic. Abroad, there are investment institutions and investors. A list of creditors is available right now. The debt they are pursuing amounts to 35 billion Hong Kong dollars. As for now, Hong Kong's courts, through extensive overseas operations, they've verified and frozen HK $66 billion of Xu Jiayin's overseas assets. But actually, his assets overseas should be more than this. Why? Because his schemes are incredibly complex. Nested offshore layers and constant name swapping. After more people rotate, you won't know where the money went. About 33 foreign companies were frozen. These include firms 100% owned or affiliated with Xu Jiayin. Additionally, he has 7 bank accounts with BOC, HSBC, DBS and others, plus tangible assets. Physical assets like properties in London, HK and the US, private jets, yachts, Rolls-Royce Phantoms. Canada, Singapore, Rota, Jersey also have this $220 million bank deposit. Recovered funds total only $255 million. 66 billion yuan, $7 to $8 billion. Only 255 million recovered. Because too many and too complex legal issues are involved. In many countries, it's untraceable, so the outcome is predictable. Evergrande Group has now thoroughly entered the final phase of its bankruptcy and liquidation proceedings. It is beyond any hope of revival. To put it plainly, the company has perished. And it's being slowly dismantled, sold off, and paid off, but the currently available domestic assets only value about 100 billion. And primarily, there are a large number of unfinished projects, abandoned buildings, and frozen land. Now, all the so-called liquidators have repeatedly stated that Evergrande has too many subsidiaries. Over 3,000 subsidiaries, complex cross-border structure, and difficult domestic asset execution. So the entire process might take 10 years to basically complete entire liquidation process. Very complex.
This shows me a scene on the African savanna. A massive elephant has fallen and numerous wolves and other predators aggressively pounce on it, you see. So it's not just about Xu Jiayin himself. This matter implicates many people. The case of Evergrande involves many people. And it involves a considerable number of very prominent individuals in China, doesn't it?
Evergrande fell because of too many people and companies involved, with debts of 2.4 trillion yuan. We all thought banks would be worst off, but actually the most miserable parties are those suppliers and material providers. How much does Evergrande owe suppliers and material vendors? 1 trillion total debt is 2.4 trillion. Of these, engineering materials alone amount to approximately 600 billion. Thousands of direct suppliers plus downstream could be tens of thousands of companies. They were completely trapped by the commercial paper. Because Evergrande, almost all of their engineering payments, they don't pay you money, they give you commercial paper. Like a blank sheet, a white slip, what's the commitment? I'll pay you back in about 3 to 6 months. But by late 2020, the payments stopped in a large scale. Suppliers stopped receiving payments from 2020, but to protect their big orders, they had to keep supplying labors and materials, then received a pile of receipts. If this chain breaks, lawsuits from upstream material suppliers and workers demanding wages will pile up. Let's take an example, for instance, the most miserable case, Nantong Sanjian. Nantong Sanjian, a nationally renowned leader in the construction sector, was owed 36 billion, about a third of that year's company income. By 2025, Nantong Sanjian's revenue was less than 100 million, cash at 6.5 million. Over 530 cases, the company went bankrupt and restructured. Huang Yuhui, once a top entrepreneur, is now the lead creditor. Selling assets and equity, his later years are truly miserable. He transferred equity, and his later years were very bleak. Another example is Guangtian Shares, a listed company and Evergrande's largest renovation supplier. 14 years of corporation, Evergrande owed it 8.8 billion. 2021 saw a massive loss of 5.5 billion, all 10 years profit gone. The stock was labeled ST, causing the freezing of over 100 bank accounts. In 2022, it declared bankruptcy directly. The founder could do nothing but watch in dismay as his supposed top client pulled him down into the depths of despair. Some companies failed, others restructured, tens of thousands. The downstream factory workers have all been impacted most. Evergrande planned over 1.6 million sets. Over 1.6 million units remain undelivered. Millions of families were affected. The unfinished building and mortgage strike waves swept the nation. People lost their savings and took on debt for a house, but construction stopped, leaving it unfinished. Since 2022, 1.2 million homes were reportedly to be delivered, per official data. But official statement says hundreds of thousands are still being liquidated. This is the second point. The third point is about financial institutions. However, financial institutions are not just banks. There are many of them. So the overall debt is approximately 2,323 billion. But as for the banks, what is it? It mainly focuses on small and medium-sized banks and commercial banks. Banks like Minsheng, Zheshang, Jingsheng, and so on, they are tied up with about 1 to 200 billion over there, so the banks actually surprised me a lot. What surprised me the most is the 4 major state-owned banks. In the end, they owed very little money. Think about China Construction Bank. It said it had no bad debts with Evergrande, not even for a year. So these big banks, they probably knew there were issues in 2021 and 2022, so they pulled out. And in the end, those at the bottom were the ones who suffered. What else is there? There's the over 100,000 Evergrande financial products, Evergrande investors, Evergrande wealth. Who suffered most? The middle and lower classes. Because within Evergrande, there are these layered regulations. Like if you're an ordinary employee, you have to buy at least 180,000. Like Evergrande wealth, layer by layer, 50,000, 100,000, and the highest goes over 10 million. Because the higher your official position, the more you buy. At the time of the crash, the unfulfilled amount was 41 billion. The top executives of the company, and if some officials were involved, they would have all withdrawn very early on. Many regular employees and suppliers also buy this wealth, including friends, and they all lose money. Recovery rate is only about 10 to 20%. Investment of 100,000 gets back 10 to 20,000. It's a tragic.
So this situation is quite similar to the 4 major banks. It's all caused by information asymmetry, right?
Yes, after reviewing this data, it's clear that Xu Jiayin has failed his employees as they invested their money only to end up with nothing. He also failed his suppliers, and all 10,000 of them ended up in a terrible state. He also failed the home buyers, but he is nice to those state-owned big banks. I think this guy is too good at handling CCP politics. He understands CCP politics so well. If he dragged all those big banks and powerful figures into this mess, I reckon he'd be stuck in jail forever. But he's already made arrangements for them.
So, Ms. Guo, regarding the case of Xu Jiayin, I know that some CCP officials were also dragged into the case.
Many people see Shenzhen and only notice the businesses, rarely considering who are operating behind. During the past 30 years, you'll see Shenzhen's history reveals how power and capital were tied together. It has 3 stages, the first from the 90s to around 2005. At that time, Shenzhen was still a typical example of the reform and opening up model. The government's relatively hands-off approach actually relied on the market to forge ahead. The generation you see, for example, Wang Shi and Wang Ge, Ren Zhengfei and Huawei, Ma Mingzi and Ping An. What these individuals share is that their initial success wasn't built on authority, but rather on their ability to thrive amidst market competition. They're like fish in a pond, he doesn't control it directly. So Shenzhen really had market vitality in that era. The second phase, 2005 to 2015, began to change. Capital exploded, but power started to make its move, becoming increasingly entrenched. This generation, like Ma Huateng, has risen. Tencent became a giant. Xu Jiayin entered Shenzhen's capital. Yao Zhenhua, a capital operator, is rising. The most typical case is the 2015 Vanke Baoneng battle. On the surface, Yao Zhenhua acquired Vanke, but actually, if you look back now, that's no longer a market action, but capital with different power backgrounds clashing and colliding. At that time, the company was still at the forefront, but shadows and power were already operating behind the scenes. The third phase, after 2015, saw the biggest changes, with power entering directly. The key figure is Ma Xingrui. When he became Shenzhen's party secretary in 2015, the Vanke Baoneng dispute was resolved during his tenure. Vanke wasn't market one, but Shenzhen Metro, a state-owned asset, entered and controlled the company. In 2017, Evergrande moved its HQ to Shenzhen. That year, Xu Jiayin's net worth reached a staggering 290 billion, crowning him as China's wealthiest individual. Put these two things together, we see clearly, Shenzhen is now power-led, not market-led. Not self-made, but chosen and amplified. Then later, when you look at why Vanke and Evergrande have become like this in recent years, it won't be strange anymore. Vanke is now a state tool controlled by Shenzhen Metro. Evergrande expanded wildly with finance and land, reaching 2.4 trillion. Same logic, two different outcomes. That's the story of this debt black hole. Shenzhen's 30 years, 3 steps. Market decided success, then power decided success. Now power decides who survives. So, looking at Wang Xi, Xu Jiayin, Ma Xingui, these lines are clear. These people aren't isolated. They play different roles in the same era's power and capital structure. And now this structure is having problems.
Do you have any insight into the close bond between Evergrande and the Xi family?
Xu Jiayin, he's not just a real estate mogul. The truly terrifying aspect isn't his ability to construct buildings or his skill in securing financing. And he understood very early on that the core of doing such big business in China has never been the market, not the surface, but power. Close to power means tons of money. Whoever is abandoned by power, their empire will turn to ruins overnight. On November 4, 2015, Shenzhen Party Chief Ma Xingui met Xu Jiayin in Shenzhen, calling for more Evergrande investment in the city. By August 1, 2017, Evergrande moved its headquarters from Guangzhou to Shenzhen. This wasn't just an ordinary entrepreneur moving, it was a political choice. Xu Jiayin connects Evergrande to Xi's circle, and Ma Xingui is Xi's man. Initially, Xu Jiayin relied on the power of the Jiang faction, the Jiang Zemin faction. But after Xi Jinping's faction gained control of politics, Xu Jiayin turned to Xi's faction, Ma Xingui. Immediately after, in 2017, Xu Jiayin's personal wealth surged to 290 billion renminbi. Evergrande heavily invested in Shenzhen. It's called staking everything on urban renewal. This wasn't simple expansion. It was about political backing, paving ways, opening gates, and securing endorsements. The power game has turned into a capital model. Xu Jiayin portrays himself as a politically correct businessman with ties to the Communist Party. He is a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference and the party secretary of Evergrande. On October 1st, the CCP's 70th anniversary, he watched the National Day parade from the Tiananmen Gate Tower. By July 1st, 2021, the CCP's centennial, he reappeared on Tiananmen Gate Tower for the celebration.
It's rare. Few businessmen can stand with Xi atop Tiananmen like this. So, at that time, when we talked about this character, not even Wang Jianlin, Jack Ma, or Ren Zhengfei reached this level. Xu is a master of political opportunism.
By 2021, Evergrande's debt crisis had surfaced, yet Xu Jiayin still attended high-profile political events. This proves he wasn't discarded by the establishment at the time, rather he was still treated as an insider. Sensitive figures in the Xi family's business circle include his sister, Qi Qiaoqiao, and her husband, Deng Jiagui.
Later, their gold business within the Shenzhen Metro was taken over by Deng Jiagui.
A 2012 Bloomberg probe traced the bulk of the Xi family's assets to Deng Jiagui's name. In 2016, the Panama Papers revealed Deng's BVI companies, showing the Xi family is far from business naive. It's more about his business arrangements, which were always focused on the family's periphery rather than on the leader, Xi Jinping himself. This is a consistent practice among the CCP elite. Given this context, a consistent narrative has long circulated on X. Xu Jiayin's success is linked to the Xi family's circle, especially Deng Jiagui and Xi Jinping. These ties fueled his political status and exceptional financing power. And his VIP seat at Tiananmen before the crisis, it all adds up. Recently on X, many accounts have revisited Xu's ties to Xi Jinping and Deng Jiagui. This links Ma Xingui, Shenzhen's urban renewal, Vanke, and Evergrande. Therefore, the downfall of Xu symbolizes more than just his own financial ruin. It signifies the disintegration of his entire network of power and influence. This clearly reflects Xi's waning influence. If the umbrella was still there, someone of his status wouldn't confess so publicly. They wouldn't pin corporate bribery on him, as that charge forces the investigation to climb even higher.
Could Xu Jiayin really have swindled hundreds of billions based solely on his name or the Evergrande brand? I doubt he could, but his appearance on Tiananmen and his deep-rooted ties to the Xi family sent a powerful signal. In China, these whispers tell you he's too big to fail. No risk at all. Beyond that, just imagine. The giants who once dominated Chinese real estate have now almost all collapsed.
Back then, they were legendary tycoons, names like Wang Jianlin and Vanke's Wang Shi. Even the Yangs of Country Garden, father and daughter, have now fallen one after another. Total glory back then. Today was almost a cliff-like collapse. The origin of all this, the myth of ever-rising house prices, has shattered. Between 2000 and 2010, Chinese property prices soared, fueling the belief they would never fall. Once prices fell, the massive bubble was popped, triggering a cascading collapse. The fallout was truly devastating. Take Wang Jianlin, a former soldier who founded Wanda in 1992. As Wanda Plazas popped up nationwide, he became China's richest man by 2013. By 2016, U.S. cinema deals drove his overseas assets past $300 billion. He owned the stage then, casually talking billion-dollar deals. The media dubbed him the king of commercial real estate. Back home, he was a household name. His stories were endless, but by 2021, policy shifts, lockdowns, and crashing sales, his funding simply snapped. He was helpless. To survive, he cut his losses, selling 80 Wanda Plazas for $90 billion cash. Now 71, he owes $600 billion. Paying $20 million in daily interest has left him looking like a skeleton. What remains of the once mighty Wanda empire? Just a story of survival through constant fire sales. You see it every day. Wanda is simply selling everything. Now let's turn to Vanke's Wang Shi. He is the undisputed godfather of the industry, a true veteran figure, wouldn't you say? He founded Vanke in 1988 as a professional manager, not a family firm, and retired honorably in 2017. Yet Vanke failed. 130 billion lost, execs probed. Its debt crisis exploded. By April 2026, rumors of his arrest surfaced. He quickly denied them, but in reality, he's already been hollowed out. The CCP's zero-COVID policy from 2020 to 2022 was the final blow. It essentially pulled the rug out from under the entire industry. Lockdowns and frozen spending crashed the market. The funding chain inevitably snapped, compounded by the 2021 three red lines policy, right? Banks recalled loans, trusts cut funding. The industry plunged from its golden era straight into its darkest hour. With Xu Jiayin jailed, Evergrande is finished. An era ends, a fitting final scene. There's a famous quote from a TV drama that captures CCP officialdom perfectly. It's brilliant, mouths full of isms and ideology. Formalism, rightism, whatever, but deep down, it's all about business. During Xu's reckless expansion, he amassed 200 million square meters of land. Imagine the corrupt deals behind such a number. Officials at the provincial, state, and even top national levels. Exposed, it's more dramatic than any thriller. From Guizhou to Hubei, many top leaders welcomed him, promising their absolute full support. They paved the way for his growth. Across every region Xu expanded, local party chiefs played a crucial role in his success. Xu was incredibly shrewd. Before the fall, he ensured state banks and his wealthy partners exited safely. Believe me, Xu will be well taken care of inside. There are too many people invested in his silence. Keep his lips sealed, and a life sentence drops to 10 years. Then he'll reunite with his family to enjoy his remaining years. They've made enough for lifetimes, but the homebuyers and thousands of suppliers are the real victims. They suffer the most. Reality is cruel.
The story of Xu Jiayin is far more than just a business case. It reflects the entire life cycle from rise to fall of this system. It is intrinsically tied to the Communist Party's entire system. I expect this kind of drama to unfold repeatedly over the next few years. So, if you're in, good luck. If you're out, just wait for the show to unfold. That's all for today. Thanks to our guests, and thanks for watching. See you next time.